Okay guys, let us look at this. Now one of the last things we're going to look at is pivot. One of the last, because we have one more video left. I think this is number 9. The last thing we have left is formatting. Just those simple stuff like merge and center, wrap text, those simple things. Alright, that it hardly makes sense spending time to do a video about, but just in case there are persons who missed that class or for whatever reasons have totally forgotten whatever it is that they were doing or supposed to do, they can actually get a refresher. Alright, that video shouldn't be very long. Won't spend too long on it. Neither will this video. Alright, so what we're looking at really is a way of summarizing our data called pivot tables. Alright, so pivot tables really are an effective tool to be used to summarize data. Just imagine that it's hard to see the effectiveness of it when you have just a small data set like this. It's really kind of narrow in scope. Alright, so therefore let's look at this. First few rules you want to pay attention to. When you're going to do a pivot table, if you want to know why, just try it out. I can't really do every single thing and show you every single error that you may have. But for example, insert, click here, let's pivot table. Alright, all of this is selected right away. Alright, cancel. Let me insert a row here, or a column I should say, about row. Insert a column, let's go back, pivot table. You realize it doesn't select this data set over here because it's an empty column. Likewise, with an empty row, wherever you have a break with an empty column or empty row, that data set will not be included, all right, in whatever you're doing. All right, so here you're normally at home or anywhere else at the home tab or menu, go to insert, and you can go recommended pivot tables. And the spreadsheet, well, I'm using 2019 version, so I have this layout here that shows them what the A's I have, 1A, 2B's, as it's a summary. And then you have another one here that's speaking about the status, like how many persons could not return, how many persons got honors, how many persons were moving up from one grade to another. All right, repeaters, and you can't stay, or something like that. All right, I know this kind of a little bit cheeky. All right, and then now we have another one that speaks about the person's their status and ages, and as well as score 1, score 2, and so forth. So pivot tables really are just a summary of your data if you want to use any of these templates. It's a powerful tool, but it's more effective when you have large spreadsheets. All right, so at any rate, let's just do one now. All right, pivot table, and click OK. When you click OK, it opens another sheet. Here's a sheet where we were, sheet 5, and a sheet 3. So sheet 5, this is our data. It opens another sheet, sheet 1, and now we can go to work. So here are our fields, our column headings. Now we have 4 options down here. We have filter, columns, rows, values. Now remember this. How should I put this now? Let's say we select students here. Students, that row. So now it's how you want to lay it out. We can move it up to columns, and you see different names here going across as column labels. If you put it down to values, and if you notice that the Greek summation symbol there, basically the only thing you can do with the words, the labels, names, and so on, is that you can count it. There's hardly anything else you can do. If you click on this down arrow here, and then go to value, average, then the question is, how are you going to average words? You see, get an error here. That won't work. So because this is a label, the only thing you can do is count it, of which you have 9. All right, but let's bring it back over here. You have rows. So it's a little feel of how this works now. Then if you have grade, let's say grade, then you see the grades of the persons coming in. But let's say I want grades over here. All right, if you notice that the grades are by the person, count number of grade, or whatever the case may be. All right. If you want to go up here, columns, you see a different layout altogether. So, and it's up to you, because pivot tables are very subjective. All right. It's up to what you prefer, the layout for your purpose. All right. Let me remove names here for student. So now I have these, right? And what I can do now, let us just say this, for example. I want to put, what would I want to put now? As well. Let's put grade down here as well. So I can drag grade out again, put it down here over values, and now I see how many how many A's I have, how many B's, how many C's, how many D's, how many F's. All right. So you can actually have one more than once. All right. And we only can count it because these are labels. But what if we remove these? Let us say we want to work with something else. Let us say, which one we're going to be doing? Let us say score. All right. Score comes under values here. And if you notice, we have the total. But we can click here and then value, field settings. And let's say I want the average. Click OK. So the average for score 1 is that 90.555 and so forth. We can go a bit further. Let us select students here, students. And then I'm going to put student under filter. I want to remove score 1 just a bit. There's something I want to show you about this. If I go here, for example, I can select the various student. For example, Lawrence. Click him, click OK, and 95. I can choose another student. I can choose Hendrix. Click OK. This is basically some of the things we can do with pivot tables. It is rather subjective to the data you want, one, how you want to present that data, and usually how you want to present it depends on the purpose, what you want it for. A similar analogy, the best analogy I can bring this to is, remember when we're doing charts, and you could use the same data to present different kinds of charts. Now, depending on if you're simply comparing proportions, a pie chart. If you're comparing multiple elements, a bar or column chart, column being vertical, bar horizontal. Or if you wanted to look at a trending, let us say it is the 3 scores were, let's say September, October, November, January, February, March. You could use a trending, which would be a line chart. So it is rather, and even pivot tables are even more so subjective. So it all depends on exactly what you want, what you prefer. I mean, and then you can, let me say this, let me go here. Let's say names, and we have score here. And let's say score 2. All right, all 3 scores. But then I want students down here in rows. All right, so I have this pivot chart now, pivot table with this data set. I click anywhere in there and then click pivot chart. And here's my pivot chart. All right, column, click OK. Here's my pivot chart, done. Simple as that, 1, 2, 3. So here's my pivot chart, here's my pivot table. And that is, I mean, it is done. So again, it all depends on what you want, and you can move the data set around, the field headings, to depending on where you want it. It takes a little bit of a practice though. But once you get the hang of it, that's it. That's pivot tables, pivot charts. I mean, not very difficult. All right. But you have it. This one requires a little bit of, what should I say, intuition, creativity, some good analysis of what you want. Because 3, 4, 5, 6 persons can get a pivot chart to do. You're not told how to do it per se, so you want this data set, and they present it 5, 6 different ways, but it's all applicable. I guess it depends on your audience, what you want it for, and the function of your chart, your pivot table. Sorry, that you want to represent the data, the best way to represent the data. That's how pivot charts work. You know, it's a more nuanced approach to presenting summary of data. And oh yeah, there was a question too on the exam. Remember January exam? For example, if you double click, for example, on this, what would happen? It would simply show you the source of your data or bring it up as to what exactly the data source was. It was a January 2020 paper. So, I mean, it's easy, but it's something you have to work with to see how best you can summarize your data. You know, that's all that there is about pivot charts or pivot tables. All right, have a good one, guys.